Good evening, everybody. Good evening. Ask you to just please take your places. We're going to start the award ceremony now. Please turn on. I'm Tom Beer. I'm the editor-in-chief of Kirkus Reviews. Thank you so much for being with us here tonight. Just a reminder, please silence your cell phones and sort of settle in for the ceremony part. We'll be about an hour, and then we can eat and drink some more. Thank you. So tonight is a very special night. This is the 10th occasion that we've gathered to present these unique literary awards. And we're thrilled, 10. And we're thrilled to be hosting them here in New York for the first time at this beautiful venue with this merry group of people, friends and colleagues in the publishing world, and those of you watching on YouTube, the live stream at home. Thank you for joining us this evening. It seems fitting to celebrate a decade of the Kirkus Prize here in the city, where in 1933, a woman named Virginia Kirkus first launched the Virginia Kirkus Bookshop service. Yes, this year also marks the 90th birthday of the publication known to you as Kirkus Reviews. This year was significant for yet another reason. We initiated a complete redesign of the magazine, and after months, some of you have seen it, after months of hard work by our dedicated staff, we're bursting with pride at this gorgeous, full-color magazine that we've been putting out into the world twice a month since September 1st. They're scattered around the room. There's some copies of the October 1st issue with an absolutely stunning illustration of author Jacqueline Woodson on the cover. Yeah. It was done by illustrator Jessine Hine, and it's a really fitting tribute to Jackie and her work. Please feel free to pick up an issue if you see one around, take it home with you, leaf through it. As I said, we're very proud of it. I'd say we're actually looking pretty good for a 90-year-old, right? Now I'd like to introduce the publisher and CEO of Kirkus, Meg Laborde-Keene. Meg's belief in the importance of Kirkus Reviews to the literary community and her unwavering leadership of the company were vital to the development of the Kirkus Prize, and it's safe to say that none of us would be here tonight without her. Thank you, Meg.
Thank you, Tom. The hardest working man in publishing, everybody, Tom Beer. A decade ago, we had the rare and spectacular privilege of dreaming up a new literary award. One of our owners, Mark Winkleman, came up with an idea for a Kirkus Award, and our other owner, Herb Simon, agreed to fund it. This year will mark $1.5 million awarded to authors and illustrators through the Kirkus Prize. But I have to tell you, when we first announced that the owner of Kirkus Reviews was going to give away $150,000 a year to recognize remarkable achievement in literature, people were pretty surprised. The news hit all the big papers, the New York Times, the Washington Post, Los Angeles Times. But my favorite headline was from AV Club. They wrote, "New literary awards from Kirkus to pay actual money." 10 years later, the Kirkus Prize is still one of the richest literary awards in the world. That's because when we set out to establish what our award would be, what it could be, the staff and editors at Kirkus defined our top 3 priorities. First, we said if we're going to do this, let's go big. Let's give away enough money that it'll make a real, practical difference in the life of a writer. The very first Kirkus Prize was actually awarded to a painter. Kate Samworth, who studied art in New Orleans and had a passion for painting birds, was devastated when she learned how Hurricane Katrina had affected the city's avian population. Audubon Park, once so full of life and movement, was now eerily still and silent. In her grief, Kate imagined a future where she could just order new birds. She envisioned something like a Sears Roebuck catalog that offered all kinds of bird parts. You could order long legs and pair it with a short beak, extravagant feathers. You could build all sorts of new birds as peculiar or as elegant as you can imagine. This wildly creative vision came to life in a picture book titled Aviary Wonders, Inc., which won the 2014 Kirkus Prize for Young Readers Literature. I don't think anyone who was present in that room in 2014 will ever forget the moment when Kate Samworth won the Kirkus Prize. We'll never forget that moment because when we saw the real-life impact that this award can have on the career of an artist, we knew that this was going to be something very, very special. And you could actually see the impact. You could feel it from her, the shock and the excitement, but also relief. I'm telling you about Kate Samworth and Aviary Wonders because when that title won the first Kirkus Prize, we all got a glimpse into the future, a future where singular works of literary and artistic mastery are celebrated and artists are given the means to create more art. Harmony Becker, who won for Himawari House last year, said, "Winning the Kirkus Prize meant so much to me, both for the public recognition and for the financial support that allowed me the space and freedom to imagine new stories." Raven Leilani, who won for Luster in 2020, said, "It made a real material difference in my life, allowing me to dedicate more of my time to my writing." And Derek Barnes, yes. And Derek Barnes, who won in 2018 and again in 2020, said, "I'll always be indebted to Kirkus for shining a light on a once struggling career. It gave me new life." The Kirkus Prize has played a vital role in boosting emerging and established literary careers because almost 10 years ago, when we defined those top 3 priorities and we said, let's go big, we also said, let's go first. One of the trademark characteristics of Kirkus Reviews is that ours is often the first review published of a book. And the outcome of that is a particularly pure assessment of the work, one that is untainted by the opinions of others. This has been a core editorial standard of Kirkus Reviews for almost a century, since the very beginning. And we knew the Kirkus Prize had to meet the same standard. As a result, this prize has become one of the most influential signals of a book's potential to make a lasting impact on America's literary legacy. New Kid by Jerry Craft became the first graphic novel to ever win the Newbery Medal, but it won the Kirkus Prize first. Just last year, Trust by Hernan Diaz, and in 2018, The Gulf by Jack E. Davis won Pulitzer Prizes, but they won Kirkus Prizes first. Jack said, "A prize from Kirkus Reviews says you've arrived. The press starts calling, your colleagues email and text, and your 90-year-old mother beams. My gosh, you think, I guess I really am a writer." By being the first major literary award in America each year, we protect the sovereignty of our assertion that the books selected as finalists and winners of the Kirkus Prize are worthy of attention and acclaim, that these books and these voices matter. And that brings me to the third and most important guideline we established when defining the Kirkus Prize. We wanted to go big. We knew we had to go first. But our absolute top priority was to go deep. Because the coverage of Kirkus Reviews is so broad, we had an opportunity to consider more books than any awards jury in the world. The first selection criterion for the Kirkus Prize is a starred review from our critic. That means that every book we review is ultimately eligible for the prize. Over the past decade, our critics have read and considered more than 100,000 books for only 30 awards. We've had finalists from far-flung corners of the globe and every region in the United States. Our prizes have been awarded to small presses, major houses, marginalized voices, and authors of great influence. Because we read so broadly, the Kirkus Prize is the most thorough and inclusive literary award in the world. Cherie Dimaline, who won for The Marrow Thieves in 2017, said winning the prize lifts books to a new level and ensures that they have the best chance to succeed in both boosting writers' work and changing the stories we think of as classics. And now, the part you've all been waiting for, math. For the 2023 prize, our critics read 3,515 works of adult fiction alone. They read 2,428 nonfiction books. And to come up with only 6 finalists, they read 4,851 books for young readers. That's a total of 10,794 books, which means less than 0.2% of the books we reviewed were named to our list of finalists for the Kirkus Prize. You are more likely to be born with 11 fingers or toes than a writer was to be named a finalist for this year's Kirkus Prize. So to all of the finalists, congratulations, you've already beaten the odds. You might have even done it without any extra digits. But don't let this moment slip by you. When Jason Reynolds talks about the night he won the Kirkus Prize, he doesn't say anything about what it felt like to win. He just remembers what it was like to be in a room with literary giants like his hero, Ashley Bryan. So look around this room, take it all in. Allow yourself the pleasure of being surrounded by talent of magnificent proportions, and allow yourself to receive this praise. To Herb, Mark, Tom, Sarah Kalina, and all the staff and editors of Kirkus who've worked tirelessly to make the Kirkus Prize meaningful, I'll leave you with a statement from Colson Whitehead, our 2019 fiction winner. Happy birthday, Kirkus Prize. Long may you reign, allowing a little light into writers' sad and desperate lives. On that ebullient note, I invite all of you here in New York and everybody joining us from home to sit back and enjoy, even revel in, the uncommon spectacle of celebrating the power and impact of truly great literature.
Thank you, Meg. Tonight we gather to recognize 18 outstanding works of fiction, nonfiction, and young readers' literature that were published in the past year. We'd like you all to get to know the fascinating and wildly talented creators of these books a little bit better. So we dispatched editor-at-large Megan Labrise, the genial host of our Fully Booked podcast, to meet with all of them on Zoom for a series of what we call cocktail conversations, a prelude to the sorts of impromptu conversations people are having here tonight. And here's Megan.
So we're working in a celebratory vein together today. So just by means of introduction, a little icebreaker question. How did you celebrate the publication of your Kirkus Prize nominated book? This could include, but need not be limited to, when did it come out? Where were you? Was there cake involved? If so, what flavor?
I think, well, Kieran loves a celebration.
I do.
So I think probably multiple times.
Yeah, we celebrate every week, basically. So there's tons of bookstores in Buffalo, actually, and one of my favorites is called Fitz Books and Waffles, and they serve hot, delicious waffles there. So I was like, yeah, bring your kids, it'll be great. And it was chaos. Like there was like balloons popping. We had like a musician. It was just like this wild waffle-filled party. So that's how we celebrated.
I had a launch celebration at a local library.
I ate cake, but I also eat cake multiple times a week. But I told myself this one was celebratory.
I feel like I've missed lots of opportunities here, having not done enough clearly to celebrate the publication of this book, and particularly not having had a waffle party, which sounds amazing.
I actually went for a nice lunch with my agent, and it was the first time I'd actually met her in person, so that was really, really lovely.
We have 2 kids who are 6 and 4, and when we're very, very tired, we take them through a drive-through to get hamburgers and fries from a place called Rick's around the corner. Very, very, very special occasions, we park the car and go inside Rick's, and it was an inside Rick's day. I went inside Rick's.
Roger, what's your greatest pleasure of your process?
But I might say colors, because sometimes when we create stories, when we stay focused sometimes in the past with the memories, and sometimes we try to dream with the future, but the color is now. And I think children's books are also amazing because of that, because they allow adults and children to share this present.
So my favorite part of the process is probably exactly that point at which the self-doubt recedes and it starts to feel like it is going to come together, like it's in a coherent shape.
Writing for me I usually was an illustrator, and so when I started writing, it was very mysterious, and it's still very mysterious. But I usually I liken it sometimes to like a tightrope walk, where I'd be very scared to do that, and so I have to sort of just pace for days before I actually do the run screaming across the tightrope to the next spot.
The same answer for me is both that Julia walking into my head and just saying there are more secrets in the ocean than in the sky, and I just had to follow her, and it was just like flying. It was amazing.
I love writing. I love getting a new idea for a story and getting that down, but there is nothing that brings me greater pleasure than revising.
So whenever I draw characters, I feel like it's like writing a love letter to myself and other people, where I'm taking like a lot of joy and pleasure and time and doing a lot of little details. That makes me feel super just satisfied and happy, especially seeing it in print. Then I'm like, oh, it's real. It's like a wish come true.
So like once the book is out and seeing people interact with it, and even as creators, what a weird process that is, because it's not like we're sitting, in someone's bedroom watching them read our book. Like you hear it kind of filtered back to you, but that engaging in those conversations with readers and with makers back and forth is like always so wonderful. And so being with you and hearing all of you makers talk about it is like really, really cool.
Your books were chosen from 435 works of nonfiction that were eligible for this year's Kirkus Prize for Nonfiction. How did you find out you were a Kirkus Prize finalist? And what does this recognition of your work mean to you?
I think my publicists wrote me and told me, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is so exciting. And I'm 3 hours behind, so it was also very early in the morning. So I was like instantly awake. I'm like, okay, well now I'm awake. This is good news to start the day.
My first reaction was, this must be some kind of mistake. I think especially when I looked at all these amazing books, and I'm still trying to process it.
And I got a text from a friend of mine who was like, hey, congratulations on being a Kirkus finalist. And I was like, wait, what? This person is confused. And I started getting all these other emails because somebody had posted about on some website about this being the first book ever written by a philosophy professor to be a finalist for this particular prize. So us poor philosophers, we're not very well trained in the writing department, as you may know if you've read a little contemporary philosophy.
It's like anytime Kirkus says anything nice about one of your books, it's always a validation because, Kirkus is the trade publications that review books. It's the one that's most likely to give you a harsh review. As those of us who've written several books know, they're the most they're famous for dinging you. And so I've been dinged in a couple of Kirkus reviews. And so to get that star initially, I thought, oh my God, I got a star. I got through that, because it's such an honor to be reviewed at a place that values books so much.
But also, like Jennifer, she will empathize. I spent about 10 years working on this, and the first couple of agents I approached were very, very unimpressed with the idea, to put it mildly. So I actually ended up writing the whole book without having sold an initial proposal, just because in the end I felt I knew what I wanted to say, and whether it's sold or not, I wanted to answer the questions for my own sake. So then to see it in print is one thing, and obviously to have it shortlisted for the Kirkus Prize has just been amazing.
The feeling that, in fact, this person that I had spent all these years living with is somehow seen again in a way that isn't possible just by the fact of a book. So, or maybe it is possible in each little living room that it's read in, but for me, it was a moment of real sort of just the light of the recognition. It was very powerful, and so I'm grateful for that.
What do you consider to be the essential question you're considering in your book, or the essential questions you're writing towards in your work?
I guess the question that I started with, which I still think about all the time, is how did they do it and why did they do it?
Most people don't know that Rastafari is kind of a very patriarchal culture to grow up in. And so a lot of the book is asking the question of how do I thread this tension between belonging and becoming?
My question was quite simple, really. How can we help people who are feeling suicidal, and their loved ones, people who have lost people to suicide, and the terrible processes of self-accusation they go through.
The more important questions to me are really how people live on when the worst has happened, what they do, and how people live with both what has been done to them and what they've done to others.
My book aims to address the question of what Latino means in the race scheme of the United States. What's the meaning of our place in this country? What are our foibles? What is our relationship to whiteness? What is our relationship to that incredible shining example of African American history? And so it's an attempt to understand us as citizens, as players in this country and its history, and also to speak to an entire generation of young people who have seen themselves portrayed as a threat to America or as unintelligent people, and to tell them that we matter in American history and that we are, as much as anyone, the essence of what the United States is about.
So speaking of celebration, as mentioned, we will celebrate the Kirkus Prize in person on October 11th. Please fantasize that we are all there together at the location, 12th floor, hors d'oeuvres, cocktails, mocktails, champagne, having a good time together. Book people in fancy clothing, which is one of my personal favorite things. Where can we find you in the context of this party?
I don't know, like probably hiding under a table somewhere, I'd say. Yeah. Or like maybe like a lampshade. I could disguise myself as a lamp.
Probably standing near the edge of the roof, just looking out, because that sounds really nice.
I am really bad at making small talk, so I'll probably be sort of standing with my friends, But I will enjoy myself. I'm just not good at making small talk.
Let's see. If I'm not hiding under the table with Paul, I'll probably be in a corner somewhere, nervously trying to figure out how to talk to the fellow finalists.
At my age, I don't care. You know, I said I'm coming, so I'll be there. The real truth of it is we're writing, we do this because we want the world to get better. If we have to stand on a rooftop in Tribeca to make the world a little bit better, it's not the worst thing in the world.
A friend of mine once told me that if you suffer from social anxiety at all, the thing to do at a party is to, when you walk in, walk with great confidence towards the farthest extremity of the room and then turn around with great confidence and walk all the way back. So then by that point you kind of have a measure of the room and who's there. So I'll probably be on the move.
To be named a Kirkus Prize for Fiction finalist in this year, what does that recognition of your work mean to you?
You know, any way that your book can find readers, and to be associated with, you know, these great fellow writers is also very meaningful to me too.
When you have a book that is coming out into the world, that one of the early things that you hope for is a good review or a starred review from Kirkus. That it's an honor, but it's also a shock.
One, or not all, but one of the things that we work for when we work is that we want readers. We want to bring our work to an audience. We want people to sort of get the opportunity to sink into the worlds that we've created and really feel with and feel for the people that we're writing about.
And so my book is set in the Midlands of Ireland. So it's a small part of what's like a very, very tiny country. And it's always amazing, just the power of fiction, just that people from thousands of miles away can make a connection.
You know, I'd like to remind everyone, my fellow writers, that this is not a foot race. We're like finalists in the Olympics. I mean, even the person who comes in last is splendidly gifted, and these are splendidly gifted people that we're talking about here. So it's an honor to be part of it.
As you saw in the video, Christina Vazzini and Stan Chen painstakingly craft the individual gold luster-tipped porcelain pages of a miniature book enclosed within a hand-blown glass dome and mounted on a lacquered base. It's a tribute to the power of literary art, fashioned by a consummate pair of artists in their own right. This year's stellar group of finalists was selected by an esteemed panel of 2 jurors in each category, all of them booksellers, librarians, critics, journalists, or authors, working in collaboration with the editors of Kirkus. Together, we read widely and deeply to produce the short list of books that we strongly believe represent the very best works of literature created in the past year. Each of them is a book you could share widely with all kinds of readers, and we know that they will stand the test of time. We'll begin the awards presentation this evening with the prize in Young Readers Literature. The jurors in this category are Anne Reyes Frazee, a school librarian in Portland, Oregon, president of the Oregon Association of School Libraries and a Kirkus critic, and Kimberly Brubaker Bradley, author of Fighting Words and other titles, who has received 2 Newbery honors and been a finalist for the Kirkus Prize herself. And here to introduce the finalists is Young Readers editor Manaz Dar.
The finalists for the 2023 Kirkus Prize for Young Readers Literature are Together We Swim by Valerie Bowling, illustrated by Kaylani Juanita, published by Chronicle Books. This big-hearted picture book follows a Black family helping its youngest member learn to swim, an ordinary activity that is also charged with deep meaning. The simple rhyming text is an absolute delight to read aloud, enhanced by warm retro-style artwork that suggests the work of classic illustrators. In its broadly inclusive depiction of swimming, all too rare in picture books, and its portrayal of a loving family that supports a child every step of the way, Together We Swim is an ebullient portrait of unadulterated Black joy. Zhao by a Thread, written and illustrated by Roger Mello, translated by Daniel Hahn, published by Elsewhere Editions. In this strikingly original picture book, translated from Portuguese and first published in Brazil, a child preparing to fall asleep finds himself carried away by his imagination. Mello and Hahn display an incredibly keen, intuitive understanding of how children perceive the world. Bold, mesmerizing abstract artwork brings to life the young boy's thoughts, fears, and hopes. Words and images work seamlessly in tandem, enhancing and building upon one another. This is picture book making at its finest. Julie and the Shark by Kieran Millwood Hargrave, illustrated by Tom DeFreston. Published by Union Square Kids. 10-year-old Julia is spending the summer in the Shetland Islands lighthouse her father is working on, while her scientist mother is consumed with her quest for the elusive Greenland shark. This tale offers a sensitive, tender, and forthright child's eye view of a parent coping with mental illness, a feat few middle grade novels have pulled off so deftly. Luminous illustrations infused with a sense of magic convey awe and wonder for the natural world. With its authentic, resonant voice, an exploration of profoundly complex themes, this is a novel that pushes the boundaries of what middle grade can do and be. The Skull, a Tyrolean folktale, written and illustrated by John Klassen, published by Candlewick. In this retold folktale aimed at middle grade readers, a young runaway makes her way to a mysterious house, strikes up a friendship with a skull, and faces off against a bizarre enemy. Klassen's text is concise but well chosen, every word thrumming with emotion, and working superbly with his moody, haunting artwork. Grappling with themes of trauma, found family, and courage in an honest yet age-appropriate way, this is a beautifully layered, deceptively simple tale that will stay in readers' hearts for years to come. America Redux, Visual Stories from Our Dynamic History by Ariel Aberg-Rieger, published by Bolter and Bray, HarperCollins. This rousing work of young adult nonfiction demonstrates that history, far from being dusty and irrelevant, is a subject teens will eagerly engage with, if we give them what they deserve. Provocative, courageous, and inclusive books that respect their passion and intellect. Balancing vibrant collage art with captivating text, Aberg-Rieger pushes readers to think critically and ask probing questions. At a time when books that challenge whitewashed history are coming under fire from censors, this is a vitally important work that dares to tell the truth. The Eternal Return of Clara Hart by Louise Finch, published by Little Island. In this young adult novel, a wildly original, gripping time loop story on spools, as a teenage boy is forced to relive the same day over and over. The fraught subject matter is leavened with a sharply honed sense of dark humor and a pitch-perfect adolescent voice. This is a potent, exceptionally well-realized tale that will grip readers by the throat as it illuminates the countless ways that every one of us is damaged by toxic masculinity.
And the winner of the 2023 Kirkus Prize for Young Readers Literature is America Redux by Ariel Aberg-Rieger, published by Balzer and Bray, HarperCollins.
This is amazing. I can't believe that this is something that people do, that they come to a rooftop and win $50,000 and hold a very heavy hand-blown glass book. Thank you so much. I feel so honored to be here. This is my first book. Kirkus was the first review I ever got in my life, and I remember opening the review, and I was sitting in the waiting room with my son when he was at the doctor's office, and I just burst into tears because the review was so beautiful and so kind and so thoughtful and so clearly engaged and saw the book. And I felt like that was it. Like, I was like, I did it. Like, this is it. It's over. But being here tonight has been such a joy to meet everyone else in my category. And I think that young readers' literature is so important. And I love that we fly under the radar. Like, I think that even with the announcements for tonight, like, a lot of publications didn't even mention that we were a category. I feel like we're like the gaffers that are like pre-recorded at the Oscars. But I'm here for that because I also think that we are the books that are being the most challenged right now and the books that are being the most banned. And I think that we are such an expansive category of making, and I think even the books and my fellow nominees we have everything. Like, we have words, and we have pictures, and we have fiction, and we have nonfiction, and we are exploring new ways to tell stories. And I think that books create space for people. I think books create space inside of people. And I think that the world is a lot, especially right now. And we create visions of the world that I think we really, really need right now. And I'm so proud of all of you. I would also like to share the award. I think it feels weird for one person to get $50K. I don't know if it's like doled out in 10s and 20s, but I would like to give some of it away to my other nominees, so I don't know who to talk to about that, but I would like to do that. And the thank you to my agent, who was my date tonight, Jenny Stevens, for finding me. Thank you to my editor, Donna Bray, and everyone at HarperCollins for letting me do whatever I wanted. Thank you to my wife, Inbal, and my 2 kids, Daniel and Roan, who are watching this on live stream right now. I wrote this book quite literally with them on top of me during COVID, so they're very intimately involved in the process. Thank you so much. Thank you.
The next award this evening is the prize for nonfiction. The jurors in this category are Mark Athatakis, a journalist, critic, and author of The New Midwest, and Anjali Enjeti, an organizer, journalist, and author of 2 books, The Parted Earth and Southbound. And here to introduce the finalists is nonfiction editor Eric Liebetrau.
The finalists for the 2023 Kirkus Prize for nonfiction are Red Memory, The Afterlives of China's Cultural Revolution by Tanya Brannigan, published by Norton. Tanya Brannigan's incisive and sensitive reflection on the Chinese Cultural Revolution is an astonishing work of reporting and historical analysis. The author, who served for many years as China correspondent for The Guardian, delivers unforgettable portraits of Chinese citizens still reckoning, decades later, with the legacy of one of the nation's darkest periods. Red Memory is not just an illuminating work about modern China. It is a revelatory account of how a nation grapples with and rewrites its own history. Mr. B, George Balanchine's 20th Century by Jennifer Homans, published by Random House. Mr. B is a matchless example of the biographer's art. Not only does Homans paint a marvelous portrait of the legendary choreographer and co-founder of the New York City Ballet, her gorgeous prose fully captures the mystique and majesty of Balanchine on his eventful journey from Tsarist Russia to mid-century New York, especially impressive given his penchant for autobiographical omission and exaggeration. The jurors note that even readers with the most incidental interest in ballet will be entranced by this definitive account of a cultural icon. How Not to Kill Yourself, A Portrait of the Suicidal Mind by Clancy Martin, published by Pantheon. This astonishing work of memoir, psychology, and cultural analysis is unlike any book the jurors have ever encountered. Martin, an acclaimed novelist and philosopher who has survived more than 10 suicide attempts, brings shattering honesty, deep compassion, and hard-won perspective to this exemplary examination of a difficult topic. A book that deepens our understanding of the human condition. It's no exaggeration to say that it has the potential to save lives. How to Say Babylon, a Memoir by Sophia Sinclair, published by Simon & Schuster. This debut memoir is one of the most beautifully written books of 2023. A highly lyrical but absolutely clear-eyed examination of Sinclair's fraught relationship with her strict Rastafarian father and nurturing mother while growing up in Jamaica. As the author finds her own voice through the practice of poetry, How to Say Babylon becomes an invigorating journey of self-discovery that glitters with insight, lush physical description, and palpable emotion. The jurors rate it the best memoir of the year. Our Migrant Souls, a meditation on race and the meanings and myths of Latino by Hector Tobar, published by MCD, Farrar, Straus, and Giroux. This vital work of autobiography and cultural commentary, which also serves as a potent manifesto, is an essential book by a veteran journalist and author at the height of his powers. Tobar goes beyond reductive newspaper headlines and inflammatory political discourse to portray the complexities and contradictions of Latinx experience in the U.S. Featuring eye-opening interviews with people from across the country, this elegantly written, refreshingly forthright book brings into sharp focus a massive yet marginalized community. Master, Slave, Husband, Wife, An Epic Journey from Slavery to Freedom by Ilyan Wu, published by Simon & Schuster. This extraordinary book is a prodigiously researched historical narrative that reads like a page-turning thriller. Wu follows an enslaved couple's journey from bondage in antebellum Georgia to freedom in the North and abroad. Readers will be captivated by the bravery and industriousness of William and Ellen Craft, who donned elaborate disguises to escape and then evaded the threats posed by the Fugitive Slave Act, emerging as important voices in the abolitionist movement and the authors of an autobiography. Rarely is a work of history so scrupulously sourced and so engagingly readable.
And the winner of the 2023 Kirkus Prize for nonfiction is Our Migrant Souls by Hector Tobar, Farrar, Straus, and Giroux.
Wow. It's been a long journey for me. 30 years ago this fall, I quit my job at the Los Angeles Times to get an MFA and write fiction. And, it's, as many of the people in this room know, being an author is a journey through delusions of grandeur to a more humble space and to being grateful for being read. I am so grateful for this moment that is for me and for people like me a victory against silence. I think that the hardest thing that many of us writers from so-called marginalized groups face is that our reality is so far from the dominant reality. And I've labored 30 years to try to bring a certain kind of story and a certain kind of storytelling into the American mainstream and to the readers that so many of you help us reach. I'm grateful for Kirkus. Many of us here I've written 6 books, like many of us here. I can say that there's only 2 outlets that have reviewed all of my books, and that's Publishers Weekly and Kirkus. And I'm grateful to Kirkus for what it does for writers. It helps to counteract that silence that so many of us face. I'm grateful to Kirkus for the times that it's given me bad reviews, including for my last novel. Because it is a reminder that, to me personally, that I'm not always the A student. That sometimes I'm gonna get a B. And when you give a writer a B, it feels like a C-. And I know this because I've been a book critic. And I know that when I run into people whose books I reviewed, the first thing that they tell me is the lines they didn't like in my reviews. I'm also grateful to Kirkus for bringing us all together tonight and for bringing me into the company of my fellow 5 finalists. Just to be celebrated, all of us together. All of us are on a journey. We all know that as authors, books take years. All of us, I think, collectively in our category, I think we probably spent a good 15, 20, 30 years on our books. So I'm grateful to Kirkus for bringing us together. I'm grateful to Kirkus also for giving me the first opportunity to publicly thank, in the city of New York, 2 guys who have been who have made my literary career. And the first is Jay Mandel from William Morris Endeavor, my agent. Jay inherited me from my first agent after she retired, the late, great Virginia Barber, who was my first agent, who picked my manuscript out of the pile of manuscripts at what used to be called the Squaw Valley Community of Writers, and reached out to me. And then when she retired, I became Jay's client. And I remember that between my second and third book, a decade passed. And I wrote to this guy who had once represented me, and he returned my email and returned my phone calls. And I just am so, as an author of unconventional narratives, of narratives that are often tinged with anger and with politics, I'm so grateful, Jay, that you've read my books. You've never told me not to write something, although you did tell me my novel could have been shorter. And I'm just so grateful for your friendship. Thank you so much for our collaboration across 5 books. And I hope that collaboration continues. And I also have the chance to thank my editor, Sean McDonald, an FSG MCD. And like many of you out there, I've practiced this speech in my head many times. And the speech always includes this line that I'm really grateful to be here and to have won this award because it adds to the legend of Sean McDonald, who is also someone who has just supported my career and all of my unconventional choices. I've never written a book that was like the one I wrote before. I went from writing a very angry political first novel to a work of nonfiction that was a travelogue, the first book he published, to then writing this sweeping novel about Los Angeles, and then back to writing a book about these crazy Chilean miners who were trapped in a mine. And I'll never forget what Sean told me when I said to him, they approached me about writing this book about the Chilean miners, those guys who were trapped. And he said, well, do you want to write that book because you want to create a work of art or because you want to make a lot of money? And I knew what the right answer was, even though secretly I was thinking both. And so thank you, Sean, for your friendship through all these years and for supporting my work. Thank you to all of you who work in book publishing, to the incredible people at FSG, the publicists who put my book in the hands of people who later champion those books. It just takes so many people to make a book successful and to keep an author writing. So many of you are gathered here, and especially the critics. We all know the labor involved in giving an honest, textured review to any work. So I thank you all, in addition to thanking my family who will see this, I hope, if it's recorded. I didn't want to tell anybody in my family it would be live, stream, because I didn't want them to see me lose again. So to my mother in Guatemala, gracias, mamá. To my father in LA, thank you for introducing books to our home. Thank you for keeping the secret for 40 years that your own mother was illiterate. And thank you for sharing with me the truth of her illiteracy and helping to explain to myself why I became a writer. Thank you to my partner, Virginia Espino, for enduring all the ups and downs that come with being married to a writer, which many of you know. And thank you to my 3 incredibly brilliant children, Dante, Diego, and Luna, for actually reading parts of my books sometime, and for listening to my crazy ideas. And thanks again to Kirkus. This is just such a wonderful, wonderful honor. Thank you very much.
Okay, and now for the final award of the evening, the Kirkus Prize in Fiction. The jurors for this prize are Rosa Hernandez, marketing manager and bookseller at Third Place Books in Lake Forest Park, Washington, and Michael Schaub, a contributing writer and critic at Kirkus, a contributor to NPR and many other publications. And here to introduce the finalists is fiction editor Lori Muchnick.
The finalists for the 2023 Kirkus Prize in Fiction are Witness by Jamel Brinkley, published by Farrar, Straus and Giroux. With remarkable perception and insight, Brinkley's stories plunge readers into the lives of Black New Yorkers as they confront complex personal situations and changing neighborhoods. Brinkley's plots are endlessly engrossing, but the real marvels of this collection are the author's keen eye for physical details, graceful language, and acute observation of even the most bewildering human behavior. Burnham Wood by Eleanor Catton, published by Farrar, Straus and Giroux. A group of guerrilla gardeners in New Zealand becomes involved with an American billionaire hoping to build himself a doomsday bunker. Should they trust him? Should they trust each other? Catton delivers an engrossing thriller that is also a blistering look at the horrors of late capitalism and a remarkably accomplished work of literary fiction. White Cat, Black Dog by Kelly Link, published by Random House. In her formally original and emotionally rich collection of stories, Link reimagines 7 fairy tales, giving us talking animals, yes, but also ominous airports and characters entering enchanted states by eating gummies. Most beguiling are the ways these stories complicate the older tales' tidy conclusions. This is fiction that lingers like an especially intense dream. The Heaven and Earth Grocery Store by James McBride, published by Riverhead. Focusing on the Chicken Hill neighborhood of Pottstown, Pennsylvania, where, in the 1930s, the town's Black and Jewish families lived side by side, McBride has created a boisterous American hymn to community, mercy, and karmic justice. His characters' interlocking lives make for tense, absorbing drama, as well as warm, humane comedy. The Bee Sting by Paul Murray, published by Farrar, Straus and Giroux. With his characteristic acuity and wit, Murray renders the decline of an Irish family in painful, affecting detail, delving deep into the minds of both parents and children, but never surrendering a delicious sense of irony. While the pressures of the financial crisis are a propulsive force, there are others, including sexual, religious, and peer pressure. This is an irresistible anatomy of misfortune. Let Us Descend by Jesmyn Ward, published by Scribner. In her first historical novel, Ward follows an enslaved girl's tortuous passage from North Carolina to the slave markets of New Orleans and then to a Louisiana sugar plantation, making the unimaginable horror, soul-crushing drudgery, and haphazard cruelties of slavery vivid in language saturated with terror and enchantment.
And the winner of the 2023 Kirkus Prize in Fiction is The Heaven and Earth Grocery Store by James McBride, published by Riverhead.
You like me. You really like me. My mother used to say, if you chew gum and swallow it, your behind will close up. So I'm gonna. I said earlier that I told somebody earlier that I didn't care whether I won or not because I don't need the money, but that was a lie. So let's just. In any case. I'd like to thank my agent, Flip Brophy, and my partner, Tammy Lagorce, and people at Riverhead, and basically my fellow finalists. They're younger than me, and I hope that they get the chance to stand in where I'm standing. The essential message I'd like to leave with you is that I'm deeply grateful to win this award, and grateful to the people at Kirkus for cutting the road for so many of us who need the road cut so that we can walk down and do what we do. This book is about a woman who is dead now. She lives in a cemetery on Long Island. Her name is Huda Shilsky. She was a Jewish woman who lived in Suffolk, Virginia in the early part of this last century, and she died in 1942. She was a very unhappy woman. Her husband was a rabbi, a so-called rabbi who didn't love her. But her oldest son, her only son, ran away and was killed in World War II, defending America. Her daughter, my mother, ran away and married my father, and had 12 black children and raised us in New York and sent us all to college and graduate school and so forth. But when Huda Shilsky died, nobody really knew who she was. And she lived a life where her husband didn't love her. So I put her on the page and I made her loved. And she became Shona, or Hannah, in this book. But the important thing about Shona in this book, and the important thing about the work that I've done here and my fellow finalists have done, is that our work is about struggle. And it's a fight against indifference. And today we meet at a very grim time. And our work, it means that we really should be mindful that the fight against fascism in this world begins and ends with each one of us in this game, in this publishing business. And so part of the reason why this prize exists, I'm guessing, and I'm just superimposing my own opinion, I suppose, is that it encourages us those of us who believe in justice and real truth, to continue on so that at the end of the day, there'll be something left behind for those who follow. So on behalf of myself, and on behalf of all the lonely Jewish people in this world who have had to look over their shoulder for decades, hundreds of years, I say let the struggle continue. I say let our fight against indifference be real, and let it be in every page, every word, every dot, every punctuation mark. Let it live there. And when you do that, you can call yourself real and true a writer. Thank you very much. Do I get to keep this? I'm going to hold on to that.
That concludes the 2023 Kirkus Prize ceremony. Congratulations to all the winners and the finalists for your splendid contributions to contemporary literature. A big thank you to our production team, Wildbound PR, and to the publicist for the Kirkus Prize, Kimberly Burns of Broadside PR. Thanks to all of you watching at home on YouTube. And for those of you with us here in New York, we invite you to stay and enjoy the food and drink from the buffet station set up around the room. Please stop by the McNally Jackson table, where copies of the Kirkus Prize finalists and winners are for sale. Good evening and thank you.